The desert was silent, except for the wind that hissed between broken metal bones of ships scattered across the valley. A lone man walked through the wreckage, his boots crushing rusted fragments that had been buried for centuries. His name was Marcus, and he had no reason to be here except for the rumors of lost tech buried under the sands. Traders whispered of ancient machines, voices trapped inside circuits, and weapons from forgotten wars. He didn't believe half of it, but hunger and need pushed him deeper into the wasteland. Sweat rolled down his face as the sun blazed overhead. His armor was scratched, dented, and patched in more places than he could count. He carried a rifle slung across his back, though there was little to shoot out here. For hours he found nothing but dust and silence until his boot hit something solid. He knelt, brushing away the sand, and the shape of a helmet appeared beneath his hand's dot. It was not like any helmet he had ever seen. Smooth, round, with a sheen of old steel and wires that still hummed faintly. Strange symbols lined its edges, glowing faintly in the light. Marcus froze, heart pounding. He pulled the helmet free from the dirt, expecting it to be dead, lifeless like the rest of the junk. Instead, the visor flickered. Blue light spilled across his face, sharp and alive. Letters appeared on the glass as though the helmet had been waiting for him. "Welcome, Commander." The words burned bright, and for a long moment, Marcus could not move. He wasn't a commander. He wasn't even a soldier anymore. He was just a scavenger. But the helmet didn't stop. More words appeared, and his breath caught in his throat. "You died 412 years ago." The desert suddenly felt colder, though the sun had not dimmed. Marcus dropped the helmet into the sand, staring at it as though it might explode. His mind raced. Who was it speaking to? How could it know his face, his name? He had never seen this machine before, and yet it greeted him like it had been waiting for his return. He wanted to walk away. He wanted to leave it there, buried where it belonged. But something in his chest pulled him back. Slowly, carefully, he picked it up again. The light shimmered across his reflection, and for the first time in years, Marcus felt truly small. "Who are you?" he whispered. The helmet hummed, faint static filling the air. A distorted voice crackled from inside the metal. "Identity confirmed. Commander Marcus Wren, mission failed." "You fell in battle." Marcus staggered backward. His rifle slipped off his shoulder and clattered against the rocks. He had never heard that name before. Wren, it wasn't his. Yet the way the voice spoke it made his blood run cold, as if some part of him deep inside remembered. Before he could speak again, the ground beneath him trembled. He turned, eyes scanning the canyon walls. A shadow moved between the rocks, sleek and fast. His finger brushed against his weapon, but he knew he wasn't alone anymore. From the haze, a figure emerged. At first he thought it was another scavenger, but the shape was wrong. Tall, slender, with glowing marks running across its skin. It wasn't human. The alien girl moved with a grace that was both beautiful and dangerous, a weapon strapped to her back that hummed with energy. Her eyes locked on the helmet in Marcus's hands, and she froze. "You shouldn't have touched that," she said, her voice calm but edged with warning. Marcus raised the helmet slightly, the glowing visor shining between them. "You know what this is?" Her gaze softened, though her body remained tense. "I know what it means. If the helmet spoke to you, then you are not who you think you are." The words cut deeper than the heat of the desert. Marcus felt a strange pressure inside his chest, a pulse that didn't feel like his own heartbeat. The alien girl stepped closer, her beauty strange and fierce, her face illuminated by the glow of the visor. "The war is not over," she whispered. "It has only been waiting for its commander to return." Marcus gripped the helmet tighter. He had come here searching for scrap, for metal to sell, for something to keep him alive another day. Instead, he had found a voice from the past telling him he was already dead. And now, this alien girl spoke as though she had been expecting him. The wind carried silence once more, but inside Marcus's chest, A storm had begun. Marcus could not look away from the alien girl. Her stance was calm, but he could see the tension in the way her hand hovered near her weapon. The helmet's glow reflected in her strange golden eyes, and he realized she was not afraid of him. She was afraid of what the helmet meant. He cleared his throat, voice low. "You're saying this thing. It knows me?" The girl tilted her head. "Not you. Who you were. The helmet is from the old war. It belonged to the last commander of Earth's armies. But they said he died." Everyone said he died. Marcus felt his knees weaken. He wanted to laugh, but the desert gave no comfort. "I'm no commander. I'm just a man trying to survive." The girl stepped closer. Her presence was strange, graceful, almost too perfect, as if carved by another world. The wind carried the scent of metal and dust, but she seemed untouched by it. "If it spoke your name, it cannot be wrong. The helmet is older than your cities. It remembers voices when flesh forgets." The helmet hummed again, louder this time. Its screen flickered, and a faint echo of a man's voice filled the air. "Commander Marcus Rin, report for duty." "The enemy advances." Marcus dropped it, stumbling back as the voice replayed again and again, like a ghost stuck in the circuits. His heart pounded as though some hidden part of him was responding to the call. The alien girl knelt, picking up the helmet with delicate hands. "You shouldn't run from this. Do you know what it means to my people if the commander returns?" "I don't even know what it means for me," Marcus said, his voice sharp with panic. "You're telling me I died 400 years ago. Do I look dead to you?" Her gaze softened as she studied his face. "No, you look alive. But sometimes the past does not die the way we think. Sometimes it waits." Before Marcus could answer, a sound rolled through the canyon. Not wind, not stone, something mechanical, grinding. He spun, lifting his rifle as shadows stretched across the rocks. At first, he thought they were machines like the helmet, long buried and broken. But then the shapes moved with purpose. Tall figures, metal plated with glowing cores, emerged from the cliffs. Their steps shook the ground, their eyes burning blue like fire. Marcus's chest tightened. He had never seen them before, but deep inside, he knew their name. The machines were wardens. The girl cursed under her breath, pulling her weapon free. "They've sensed the helmet. They won't stop until they have it." Marcus raised his rifle, his instincts kicking in, though he didn't understand why his hands felt too practiced, too sure. The wardens spread in a half circle, moving with the weight of predators closing on prey. The girl glanced at him. "Do you remember how to fight?" Marcus almost laughed. "I'm trying to remember if I'm even who I think I am." There was no more time. The first warden lunged, metal claws tearing at the sand. The girl fired, her weapon roaring with blue energy, slicing the machine in half. Sparks filled the air as it collapsed, but the others pressed forward. Marcus aimed and shot, each bullet cracking through armored plates. His arms moved with precision he could not explain. Every motion smooth, drilled, as if he had trained for this battle 1,000 times. He heard himself shouting orders, sharp, clear commands. "Left flank. Cover the ridge. Hold fire till they close." The girl obeyed without hesitation, her shots timed with his. Together they cut down the wardens, their broken bodies littering the canyon floor. The last one fell with a thunderous crash, its glowing eyes dimming into silence. The desert grew quiet again, but Marcus's chest heaved as if he had just run through a storm. He looked at the girl, her weapon smoking in her hands, her face unreadable. She studied him as though seeing something rise from the grave. "You gave commands," she said softly. "You moved like him. Like the commander of old." Marcus's hands shook as he lowered his rifle. He wanted to deny it, to say he had been lucky, that adrenaline had carried him. But deep inside, he knew the truth. His body remembered things his mind did not. The helmet still glowed, lying in the sand between them. Its voice whispered one last time, low and certain. "Welcome back, Commander." The war is not finished. Marcus felt the weight of centuries pressing on his shoulders. Whatever life he thought he had, it was gone now. Something greater had already claimed him. Asterisk. Marcus sat on a rock, his rifle across his knees, his chest still rising and falling from the fight. Around him, the broken shells of the wardens lay smoking, their metal frames twitching like dying animals. The smell of scorched wires filled the air. He had killed before in his wandering life, but this was different. This had felt familiar. Too familiar. The alien girl paced nearby, her weapon still humming. She moved with the smooth steps of someone trained for battle, yet her eyes kept drifting back to him, studying him as though he were some impossible puzzle. "You fought like a soldier from the old records," she said finally. "Not like a scavenger. Not like a man who only survives. You moved as though you had led armies." Marcus shook his head. "I've never led anyone. I've only looked out for myself." Her gaze flicked to the helmet lying between them. "Maybe that's what you believe. But the helmet doesn't lie. The wardens came for it because they know what it means. You were their enemy once. You still are." Marcus rubbed his face, the dirt sticking to his skin. "You keep saying I was someone else. A commander. But if I really died 400 years ago, how am I standing here now?" The girl stopped pacing. For a long moment, silence filled the canyon, broken only by the crackle of burning machines. Then she looked at him, her voice quieter, almost uncertain. "There are legends among my people. Stories of human leaders who made weapons that could bend time, who built machines that could hold memory and flesh together. They said the last commander refused to surrender. They said he fell, but his return was promised." Marcus let out a sharp laugh, though it had no humor in it. "So I'm some kind of ghost? A story pulled out of the dirt?" Her golden eyes didn't waver. "You are more than you think. And now that you've awakened, the galaxy will know it." Before he could argue, the helmet lit again. Its glow was stronger now, the words across its visor sharp and pulsing. "Priority alert. Enemy signal detected." Marcus stood quickly, his instincts roaring awake. The girl raised her weapon, scanning the cliffs. The desert felt heavy, as though the ground itself was waiting for another strike. "Are more coming?" Marcus asked. "Not wardens," she said. "Something worse." A distant rumble echoed across the valley. At first it sounded like thunder, but the sky was clear. Then Marcus saw them, shapes moving at the horizon, dark against the sun. A swarm of flying machines, sleek and sharp like blades, descending in perfect formation. Their engines screamed as they cut through the air. Marcus felt his throat tighten. He had no plan, no army, no fortress to fall back to. Just a rifle, a helmet, and a stranger who seemed to know more about him than he did himself. The girl grabbed his arm. "We can't stay here. They'll wipe this place clean. Come." She pulled him toward the cliffs, moving fast over rocks and sand. Marcus followed, though every step burned with questions he could not ask. His body felt heavy with the weight of centuries he didn't remember living. They slipped into a narrow crack in the cliffs, the sound of engines growing louder behind them. The girl led him through twisting paths until they entered a hidden cavern. Inside, the air was cool, and faint lights glowed along the walls, carved in strange symbols Marcus could not read. The girl finally stopped, turning to him. "We are safe for now. But you need to understand this is not chance. You were found because the war is waking again. The wardens were only the first wave. The swarm above us belongs to the Dominion. They ruled after the commander fell. They feared him, even dead. And if they know you're alive—" Marcus cut her off, his voice low. "I don't even know who I am anymore. You keep calling me a commander, but I've never worn that title." She stepped closer, her face inches from his, her golden eyes burning. "Then you must decide. Either you are Marcus, the scavenger who hides in deserts, or you are Commander Rin, the man who was promised to return when the galaxy needed him most. Marcus looked down at the helmet in his hands. The glow seemed alive, waiting. The words shifted again, as though answering the unspoken question. Mission restart. Commander, assemble your forces. His chest tightened. Forces? He had no forces. He had no army, no banner, nothing but dust and confusion. Yet something inside him stirred, like embers catching flame. For the first time in years, Marcus felt the weight of purpose. The girl placed her hand on his shoulder. If you accept this, everything changes. You will not live for yourself anymore. You will live for a war that never ended. Marcus closed his eyes, hearing the echo of the helmet's words. He had thought he was nothing but a scavenger. But maybe, just maybe, he was something far greater. The cavern walls seemed to breathe with faint light, the glowing symbols casting shadows that danced across the stone. Marcus sat near the entrance, his rifle leaning against the wall, the helmet resting in his lap. Every time he looked at it, the glowing visor seemed to watch him back, as if it knew more about him than he could ever understand. The alien girl knelt a few steps away, her weapon across her knees. She had not told him her name yet, and Marcus had not asked. Trust was fragile here, like glass ready to break. Still, she had saved his life, and he had fought beside her. That meant something. Finally, Marcus broke the silence. You said the Dominion ruled after the commander fell. What are they? The girl's expression hardened. They are not rulers. They are slavers. Machines and flesh bound together, armies bred only for control. When the commander died, they spread like fire across the galaxy. My people resisted, but we were crushed. The Dominion does not forgive rebellion, Marcus frowned. And now you think I'm the one to stop them? Her golden eyes fixed on him. Not me, the helmet does. And it never lies. Marcus wanted to argue, to throw the helmet into the dark and forget it, but the echo of the battle still burned in his muscles. He had fought like someone else. He had shouted commands that came without thought. That wasn't just chance. That was memory. Before he could answer, the helmet's visor flashed again. New mission data loaded. Location: Stronghold Sigma. Status: abandoned. Marcus blinked. The words hung in the air, sharp and impossible to ignore. He touched the side of the helmet, and for a heartbeat, the cavern around him dissolved. He was standing on a battlefield of fire and steel. Soldiers in armor he didn't recognize saluted him, shouting his name. Warships burned in the sky. And then darkness. He gasped, nearly dropping the helmet. The vision faded, and he was back in the cavern, sweat dripping down his face. The girl had risen, her eyes wide. You saw something, Marcus nodded slowly. A stronghold, soldiers, a war I don't remember. Her lips curved into something between hope and fear. Then the helmet is guiding you. Stronghold Sigma is real. I've heard of it. Buried in the mountains far to the north. If it still holds what the commander left behind. Marcus finished her thought. Then it might hold an army. The girl bowed her head slightly. Or the remains of one. Enough to strike fear into the Dominion again. Marcus looked at the helmet, its glow steady and patient. He felt a pull deep inside, a path he could not refuse. He didn't know if he was Marcus the Scavenger anymore, or Commander Rin reborn. But he knew the war was already chasing him. We'll go, he said at last. The girl studied him, then nodded. Then I will follow. They set out at dawn. The desert stretched endless and harsh, the sun beating down on their shoulders. Marcus carried the helmet strapped to his pack, every step heavy with questions he could not answer. The girl walked beside him, silent most of the time, but alert, her golden eyes scanning the horizon. As the day passed, Marcus felt something strange stirring in him. Every dune, every canyon, felt familiar. Not as Marcus the Scavenger, but as someone who had marched armies through these same lands long ago. His body remembered paths his mind had forgotten. When night fell, they camped among rocks. The girl finally spoke. "I am Kaelin," she said quietly. "Daughter of the last free chief of the Mer." Marcus repeated the name softly. "Kaelin," she nodded. "My people told stories of the commander. They said he would return when the Dominion grew too strong. Most believed it was just a tale to keep us from despair. But when I saw the helmet choose you, I knew the story was true." Marcus stared into the fire. "And what if it's not? What if I'm just a man wearing another's shadow?" Kaelin's eyes met his. "Then the galaxy is doomed. But I don't believe that. Not after today." The crackle of fire filled the silence between them. Marcus looked at the helmet, its glow faint in the dark. He thought of the wardens, the swarm in the skies, the vision of burning warships. He had not chosen this path, but it had chosen him. Far above, in the endless night sky, streaks of light moved like hunting birds. Dominion scouts searching, always searching. Marcus gripped the helmet tighter. He knew their journey to Stronghold Sigma would not be safe. But for the first time, he felt something other than fear. He felt destiny pressing against him, waiting for him to answer. The mountains rose like jagged teeth against the horizon. For 3 days Marcus and Kaelin had traveled across deserts and cliffs, guided only by the helmet's glowing map. Each night the Dominion's ships prowled the skies above, their searchlights crawling across the land like predators hunting prey. They had avoided patrols, moving through shadows, but Marcus knew their luck would not last forever. On the morning of the 4th day, the helmet flickered with a new message, approaching. Stronghold Sigma. Security status. Locked. Commander code required. Marcus stared at the words, his heart pounding. "It's close. Just beyond these peaks." Kaelin adjusted her weapon, her golden eyes sharp. "Then we must hurry. The Dominion will sense its activation." They climbed through narrow passes, the air thin and cold. Strange ruins jutted from the cliffs, carved with symbols half buried in stone. Marcus felt a strange familiarity, like echoes whispering through his bones. He touched the walls as they passed, and vision stirred again, soldiers shouting, banners flying, the clash of machines. He shook his head, trying to clear it, but the memories only grew stronger. At last they reached a plateau. Before them stretched a massive gate of black steel, half collapsed but still imposing. The ground was littered with broken cannons, their barrels aimed at the sky as though waiting for a battle that never ended. Marcus stepped forward. The helmet's visor glowed bright. Scanning the gate, commander code confirmed. Access granted. With a thunderous groan, the gate cracked open. Dust poured into the air as ancient gears turned, the sound echoing through the mountains. Inside was silence. They entered a vast chamber carved into the rock, lined with machines long dead. Rows of armored suits stood like statues, their visors dark, their weapons coated in dust. At the center of the hall stood a command table, glowing faintly with energy. Marcus felt his knees weaken. He had never been here, yet every corner felt known, as if he had walked these halls 100 times before. The helmet pulsed in his hands, alive with power. Kaelin looked around in awe. This is more than a stronghold. This is a tomb of soldiers. Marcus placed the helmet on the command table. The entire chamber shook as lights blazed to life. One by one, the armored suits powered on, their eyes glowing blue. A deep voice filled the air, mechanical but commanding. "Commander Wren, you have returned." Awaiting orders, Marcus stumbled back. The suits were not empty. Inside them stirred soldiers of metal and memory, their bodies reconstructed, their minds bound to duty. They stood in perfect formation, silent but alive. Kaelin whispered, almost trembling. "You have an army." Marcus's chest tightened. He wanted to deny it, to refuse the weight pressing onto his shoulders, but the truth was undeniable. He had awakened something that had been waiting for centuries. Before he could speak, a roar shook the stronghold. The ground trembled as explosions lit the entrance. Marcus ran to the gate, Kalen at his side. Outside, the sky was filled with Dominion ships. Sleek black vessels descended like vultures, their weapons glowing red. Swarms of drones poured out, their engines screaming as they rushed toward the stronghold. Kalen raised her weapon. "They found us." Marcus gritted his teeth, his voice suddenly steady, sharp, filled with a power he didn't recognize as his own. "Then we hold them here." He turned back to the glowing soldiers waiting in the hall. His voice rang through the chamber, echoing against the stone. "Prepare for battle." The armored figures moved as one. Their weapons powered up with a roar of energy, the sound filling the stronghold like thunder. For the first time in 4 centuries, the commander's army stood ready. Kalen looked at Marcus, her face fierce, yet a flicker of awe in her eyes. "Do you remember now?" Marcus shook his head, though his grip on his rifle was steady. "No, but my body does." "And that's enough." The first wave of Dominion drones streaked toward the gate, red light flashing. Marcus raised his rifle, his voice cutting through the storm. "Hold the line." The stronghold erupted in fire and sound. Energy blasts lit the night, metal clashed against metal, and the mountains trembled with the weight of war reborn. Marcus fought at the front, his movements sharp and unyielding. Kalen fought beside him, her weapon glowing as she cut through the swarm. The soldiers of Sigma advanced in perfect rhythm, their fire tearing through the Dominion drones. But for every machine that fell, more came. The sky seemed endless with them. Dominion warships hovered overhead, their cannons charging. Marcus felt the ground quake as another explosion shook the cliffs. Through the chaos, the helmet's voice spoke again, calm and steady. "Commander, Phase 2 protocol available. Activate." Marcus clenched his jaw, sweat stinging his eyes. He didn't know what Phase 2 meant, but he knew they couldn't hold forever. He took a deep breath. "Do it." The stronghold's floor split open, and massive cannons rose from the depths. Energy surged through the walls, the chamber glowing with ancient power. Marcus felt the battlefield shift beneath his feet. The war of the past was alive again. Asterisk. The night sky burned red as Dominion warships unleashed fire upon the mountains. Stronghold Sigma shook under the storm, but its walls held, glowing with ancient shields that had slept for centuries. Marcus stood at the heart of the chaos, rifle in hand, the helmet's light casting a sharp glow across his face. He had thought himself a scavenger once, a man lost to the desert. Now he stood as the center of a battle that had been waiting for him since before his birth. The soldiers of Sigma fought like living steel, their weapons blazing, their ranks unbroken. Kalen moved beside Marcus with fearless grace, her golden eyes burning bright. She cut down Dominion drones with every strike, her voice rising in battle cries that echoed through the stronghold. Yet no matter how many enemies fell, more swarmed the skies. One of the warships descended lower, its cannons charging for a killing strike. Marcus felt the ground shake as the helmet spoke again, steady and calm. "Commander, Phase 2 active. Phase 3 available upon command." He didn't know what Phase 3 meant, but hesitation had no place here. "Activate it." The ground roared beneath them. The stronghold's core awakened, ancient reactors flooding the chamber with light. Towers of steel rose from hidden shafts, each one crowned with weapons that glowed like suns. A deafening blast tore through the sky as energy cannons locked on the Dominion warship. In a single strike, the ship exploded into fire, breaking apart as its wreckage rained across the mountains. The soldiers cheered, their metallic voices echoing through the stronghold. Kalen glanced at Marcus, her face lit by fire and hope. "You turned a tomb into an army. They will follow you anywhere." Marcus's heart pounded. He looked around at the glowing weapons, the soldiers standing tall, the walls alive with energy. For the first time, he felt the full weight of who he was, not Marcus the scavenger, Not even Marcus Rin, the commander of old, but something new. Something forged from both past and present. The Dominion ships began to retreat, pulling back into the night sky. The swarm of drones thinned, leaving only smoke and silence in their wake. Marcus lowered his rifle slowly, his breath heavy. The battle was over for now. Kaylin stepped closer, her voice soft. You drove them back. No one has done that in centuries. Do you see now? You are not just a man. You are the return of a legend. Marcus looked down at the helmet, its glow steady, calm, waiting. For the first time, he didn't feel fear when he saw his reflection in the visor. He saw command. He saw purpose. They'll be back, he said quietly. Stronger. With more ships, more armies. This was only the beginning. Kaylin nodded. Then we must be ready. You have the soldiers of Sigma, and with your name, others will rise. The galaxy has waited for this day. Marcus stood taller, his voice clear. Then let them come. I'll be here to meet them. The soldiers raised their weapons in salute, their glowing eyes fixed on him. In that moment, Marcus understood that he was not simply reliving a forgotten past. He was forging a new future. The helmet spoke one last time, its voice steady as stone. Mission restart. Commander Rin. Objective restore freedom to the galaxy. Marcus lifted it high, the light pouring across the stronghold. The echoes of the past faded into silence, replaced by the steady beat of a new war beginning. But for the first time in centuries, there was hope. Kaylin placed her hand on his shoulder, her voice strong and certain. The galaxy thought the commander was gone forever. Tonight, it learns he has returned. Marcus breathed deep, the weight of centuries settling into his chest, not as a burden, but as armor. He was Marcus. He was Commander Rin. He was both. And the war that had once ended in defeat was alive again, this time, with him standing to lead it. The mountains stood in silence as dawn broke, the first rays of light cutting through smoke and ruin. Marcus looked to the horizon, his army behind him, Kaylin at his side. The legend had returned. And with him, a future worth fighting for.